with me now is Alisha Kang, National President of the Union of National Employees. It represents passport officers, among many others. Alisha, thank you very much for being here. What is your immediate reaction to the federal government's decision to cut 800 passport office jobs? Do you think this is justified?
Well, it's disheartening. Obviously, we've had passport crises in the past in terms of being able to get services to Canadians. And really, what you're looking at is job cuts of the most vulnerable public servants, mostly terms, precarious workers. And you're looking at people who are making under $58,000 a year. So it seems to me like Mark Carney is, looking at fiscal responsibility on the backs of the least paid public servants in the public service. And so I'm not sure that Canadians are going to continue to get the services that they so need to be able to get their passports through these cuts.
How do you anticipate these job cuts will affect passport processing times and service delivery?
Well, we've continued to see these long lineups, even post-pandemic, and I don't see this helping us get the passports any quicker. I actually see there being a slowdown, particularly when we return to the fall, which is the beginning of the busiest season in the passport processing system. And so I think that Canadians are really going to be impacted in terms of long lineups. And that also impacts the members at the end of the day that are left behind having to service Canadians who think that it's, there's often this perception that we're not processing things fast enough, but oftentimes it's because we don't have the actual capacity and the surge capacity to be able to serve Canadians properly.
Have you received any indication that the employees facing the cuts will get any sort of compensation?
So no, they don't. They're not going to get any compensation. When terms are terminated, they get 30 days notice. And from those 30 days, their terms are cut off. So you're really looking at people that as of, the 27th of June won't have employment. And, that obviously impacts people going to unemployment, which is, again, another way that we're going to have to support them through our tax dollars. So at least they were providing services to Canadians through the jobs that they were doing. Now they're not going to be providing services to Canadians, but are going to increase our unemployment numbers. So I find the economic viability of these cuts quite concerning from my perspective in terms of how this is going to help the growth of the Canadian economy. But, I think that the government has different people advising them on how to go about these cuts.
So how do you plan to respond?
Well, I think, from our perspective, we're going to continue to make the public aware of, what these impacts are going to be on them. We're going to continue to support our unionized members. And obviously, from our perspective, we want good public services for Canadians. Public servants, and especially since the pandemic, have definitely seen an increase in lack of civility from the Canadian public in terms of how they interact with them and the expectations of the speed at which they get the services. And I think this is just going to slow it down. So we're going to continue to inform the public about what these cuts mean and support our members through this process. And we're going to, obviously prepare ourselves to pivot in terms of how we do negotiations.
All right, Alisha, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time today. That is Alisha Kang, National President of the Union of National Employees.